Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So, Detox recently revealed some backstage tea about a production mistake at the season 15 finale at a viewing party in Nashville, which I'll talk about more in a moment. But this reminded me how much backstage tea was spilled during the Roscoe's viewing parties. And my Roscoe's recaps have been a very popular series on my channel. So I thought I would make a compilation of the most watched moments from each Roscoe's recap based on the YouTube analytics that show me which moment in each video was the most watched by my viewers. So here are my top Roscoe's recap moments from season 15, as well as some bonus tea from Detox about the season 15 finale. Let me know in the comments which moment was your favourite from my Roscoe's recap series and which piece of backstage tea surprised you the most. Thanks for watching and enjoy! Detox reveals production mistake at season 15 finale. Detox competed on season 5 of Drag Race US and also All Stars 2 and has become a very popular queen within the Drag Race fandom. Detox was recently a guest at a viewing party at Play Dance Bar in Nashville, where she shared some behind the scenes tea about a production mistake that apparently happened at the season 15 finale. Although Detox was not at the finale, she said she heard that during the taping of the finale, when the top 4 were on stage waiting to find out who had made it to the top 2, there were screens behind them which were switched off at the time. However, according to Detox, there was some type of production mistake, and apparently 2 of the screens behind the queens lit up prematurely, and they showed just Sasha's and Anitra's photos. And apparently the queens were facing the audience so they didn't see the screens at first, but then because the audience was gasping, the queens then turned around and saw the screens showing just Sasha and Anitra. And Detox joked and said, quote, "So someone got fired that night on production." And if this is true, it would mean that Mistress and Luxe probably knew that they hadn't made it to the top 2 before RuPaul had actually announced it. And so when RuPaul did eventually announce the top 2, perhaps Mistress and Luxe already knew that they hadn't made it to the top 2, and this may have affected their reactions that we saw in the episode. However, this is just a rumour and has not been confirmed by anyone else, and some people have denied that this is true, but I thought that this was an interesting piece of backstage tea about a potential production mistake during the filming of season 15 finale. And now here is a compilation of the top moments from my Roscoe's recaps for season 15. Willow said that she doesn't really watch Untucked apart from season 7's Untucked because it was good, but Willow said she feels like the recent seasons of Untucked have been so nice, except for Candy Muse and Tamisha Iman on season 13. And Willow then made an interesting point about how social media has affected how the queens behave on Drag Race. Willow said, quote, "There's become too much consciousness about how you're going to be judged by the fans, and I wish that would kind of go away and they would just plough them with alcohol as well, because then there would be a lot more fun." And Denali then shared a fun behind the scenes moment from her season involving Candy Muse. Denali said that on season 13, they filmed it during the COVID-19 pandemic, and there were a lot of protests and riots happening at that time. So everyone in the season 13 cast was so scared to say anything. And Denali said that Candy walked into the workroom one day and said to everyone, quote, "Ladies, it's a really difficult time to be white right now." And everyone in the audience at Roscoe's laughed. Willow and Denali then said they wished that there was more drama in Untucked like in the older seasons. And Denali said, quote, "It's nice to honestly get back to that time because remember when we were flinging drinks and bleep." And this was most likely a reference to the famous season 3 Untucked fight between Shangela and Mimi on First, where Mimi accused Shangela of having a sugar daddy and Shangela threw a drink over Mimi. Willow and Denali then said that they want punches and a physical brawl, and Willow joked that they should give someone a knife. An audience member then asked if Willow or Denali had ever had a bad experience with another Drag Race queen. And Willow revealed that there was one queen who she had a bad experience with before Willow got on Drag Race. Willow said, quote, "I've toured or been in dressing rooms with queens when I was not on the show that were not like the best." At first, Willow didn't want to say who the queen was, but then the audience shouted out asking her to spill the tea. Willow said, quote, "Should I? It's not even that bad. It's not even that bad. Honestly, it was kind of warranted. I mean, it was Violet Chachki." The audience then erupted into laughter for a minute, and this is likely because there is a kind of ongoing thing in the Drag Race community that Violet Chachki has developed a bad reputation for being difficult to work with, and multiple queens have called her out for it. Willow then gave some more information about what happened with Violet and explained that she was doing a show with her drag sister Evie Oddly, and this was before Willow got on Drag Race. And Violet was also part of the gig that they were at. Willow said that it was a drive-in drag gig which happened during COVID, and they had to share a trailer with Violet, and Willow said that Violet was so annoyed and, quote, wouldn't look me in the eye. But Willow followed this up by saying, quote, whatever, I effing love her, she warmed up too, and you know I live for Violet. Naysha then defended Violet and said that drag queens are only human and that we all have our good and bad days, but then Naysha joked that some people have more bad days than good days. And then Willow mentioned Violet again and joked, quote, honestly, it was an honour to breathe the same air as her. They then started discussing filming Drag Race post-COVID, and Poppy said that she actually caught COVID 2 weeks before filming, and even though she didn't have it anymore, the test was still showing positive. So apparently, Poppy read online that if you put lots of chapstick up inside your nose, it makes the test show as negative, which is what she did, and she ended up being allowed on the show. And Irene made a joke that Poppy infected everyone on set. However, after the Roscoe's episode aired, Poppy must have received some critical comments about this online, and she tweeted saying, quote, I've gotten a few comments about what I said at Roscoe's about my COVID test. Can't believe I have to clarify what I thought was a funny story, but I was not positive with COVID. We were required to take PCR tests to go on the show, but they can show COVID in your system for months. Poppy then went on to explain in a series of other tweets that she had done rapid tests, but they were all negative, but the PCR tests kept coming back positive. But she consulted with the show and many doctors, and they agreed that she didn't actually have COVID, so she was allowed to go film. And she also said that she would never endanger the health of the other contestants. However, she has since deleted several of the tweets. Naysha then asked Lucy if there were any jokes that she made as Joan Rivers during the Snatch Game that were not shown. And Lucy said there was one joke she wished had stayed in, where she said that she was on a bad flight on the way there, and Lucy said, quote, there was a child behind me kicking and screaming the whole time. All I kept thinking was, where is Casey Anthony when you need her? And there was a big laugh and a few gasps from everyone at Roscoe's. Just to explain, Casey Anthony is an American woman who was accused of murdering her 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee, in 2008, and she lied many times during the trial, but was eventually found not guilty, which caused public outroar at the time, and it was dubbed the social media trial of the century. Amethyst then said she wanted some constructive criticism from the judges so that she could work on things, but then she said, quote, which I never got from Ross Matthews. And Sugar then said about Ross, quote, still waiting for a funny joke. Amethyst then explained that Michelle Visage at least gives constructive feedback and gives you things to work on, but she said that Ross Matthews, quote, just sat there and insulted my look the entire time. Amethyst then did an impression of Ross Matthews and said that he said, quote, you know when you're 8 years old and you get out of the shower and you wrap a towel around you like you're wearing a dress? That's what this reminded me of, and it didn't work. And everyone laughed at Amethyst's impression of Ross, and Amethyst then said about Ross's critique, quote, what the F am I supposed to do with that? Sugar then said that she was done with Carson Kressley and explained that Carson said something to Sugar during the runway for the Snatch Game episode that was cut out. Apparently, Carson said that for Snatch Game you need to pick icons and said that Trisha Paytas is not an icon. Sugar then mentioned the YouTube video that she had done with Trisha Paytas and said that they cut out a part of the video where they were talking about Carson, and Trisha said, quote, what does he even do? He's from Queer Eye from 2001, girl bye. And this got a big laugh from the audience. The episode then ended and they moved on to talking about the show in general, and Naysha asked about the talent show in episode 1, and Aura said that a lot of people had criticised her talent show for being low energy. But Aura explained that before Drag Race, she had fallen over and badly injured her leg while on stage. And then when she got the call saying that she got on Drag Race, she didn't want to tell the show that she had been injured in case they recast her. So she didn't want to do a dance number for the talent show because of her injury, so she was originally going to do a comedic workout routine, but her boyfriend convinced her not to do it because it didn't feel authentic to Aura's personality. And Aura said that she eventually decided to do a dance number for the talent show, but she couldn't do her usual level of dancing because of her injury. And Aura said that she did explain the backstory of her injury on the show during her confessional, but it was all cut out, and she was waiting to see if they would include this in any future episodes, but they haven't. And that's probably why Aura did eventually tweet about this, explaining that she tore her hamstring, but she seems to have deleted the original tweet for some reason. However, we can see another Twitter user's response to the tweet, and also Aura's response to that, saying that that's why she had to wear flats during the talent show. Naysha then asked Aura and Robin who they got on best with from the cast and also who they got on with the worst. Aura said that she and Robin got really close after the show and they are now really close friends. And then Aura said that although the whole cast does get on well, there are a few people that she doesn't talk to outside of the group chat, and Aura said that for her it was Mistress Isabel Brooks and Lux Noir London. Aura explained that there isn't any drama, it's just that she didn't connect with Mistress and Lux, and Aura went on to say that while taping the show, she felt very intimidated by Mistress because Mistress likes to provoke people for drama, so Aura said she just decided to keep away from Mistress. Naysha then asked Mistress if there was anyone in the season 15 cast that she didn't get on with, and Mistress said that she was a bit taken aback by what Aura had said about her last week at Roscoe's. Just to explain, last week at Roscoe's, Aura Mayari was one of the guests and said that she didn't vibe with Mistress and stayed away from Mistress because she felt like Mistress was always trying to start drama. Anyway, back to Mistress, and she said that she gets on with all the cast and she and Aura don't have any issues, so she was confused why Aura had said that. And Mistress also said that she's sure that Aura didn't have any malicious intent behind what she said and her feelings are valid. But Mistress said that she wasn't a fan of the way that Aura said it and was annoyed by what Aura had said because on that particular episode, which was last week's episode, they were talking about the word bully and what that means. And Mistress said that Aura's comments at Roscoe's just incited people to act even more crazy towards Mistress and also Lux, who are the two people that Aura had mentioned. And Mistress said that she thought Aura would have been, quote, more mindful of your words, and that's why Mistress responded to the situation on social media. But Mistress added that she doesn't have a beef with Aura, she was just surprised that Aura had said that because she and Aura do talk. Mistress then went on to say that some of the queens, such as Aura, but not exclusively, post on social media every week explaining what really happened during the Drag Race episodes and complain that so much was cut out, which further ignites the fan base. Whereas Mistress said that she just stays quiet and thinks that the fans should just watch the show. And Mistress said that at the end of the day, it's a TV show, and some of the queens who complain about not getting screen time were, quote, boring as F in person, which is probably why they didn't get much screen time. Mistress then went on to say that one of the reasons why she was annoyed at what Aura had said about Mistress instigating drama was because Mistress wanted to make sure that, quote, our season is not boring. And Mistress made the point that off camera, the queens are not always friends and said, quote, let's be realistic and show an accurate representation on camera of what it's really like. Mistress also said, quote, I'm not a sweetheart, I'm a B, whatever the girls say, believe it. And Mistress said that when she was on the show, she knew that because of the way that she was acting, she was going to potentially get a negative reception from the fans. But Mistress said that she didn't want the season to be boring, so she did it for, quote, the betterment of the season. And Mistress finished by saying that she respects everyone in her cast, even the queens that she had issues with, and said that it was, quote, disheartening to hear the comments that some of the queens had made about her. They then moved on and Naysha asked who the guests were friends with from their season and who they are still friends with. And Naomi joked and said that, quote, Dax left the group chat, and she was referring to Dax who also competed on season 8. Naysha laughed and said that she can understand why Dax left the group chat and decided to tell the story of what happened. Naysha said that back when they were on season 8, when the first episode premiered, the whole cast would travel around to different cities and do a viewing party of the first episode, and apparently Bianca Del Rio was the host of it. Naysha explained and said that in at least 2 different cities, they all got into the van to drive to the gig, but they would count to make sure that all the queens were there, and twice they accidentally forgot about Dax and drove off without her. And Naysha said that another time they accidentally left Dax at the airport in Austin, Texas and drove off without her. Naysha explained and said that Dax, quote, doesn't talk, and implied as though people forgot about her because of that. And the other reason was that Bianca was also in the van, so when they were counting all of the queens, they would count Bianca as part of the group and then they forgot that Dax wasn't actually there. And Naysha said that because of all of that, she can understand why Dax left the group chat. Naysha then brought up season 8 contestant Robbie Turner and asked Naomi if she had spoken to Robbie, and Naomi said, quote, I would love to. Just to quickly explain in case you don't know, back in 2018, Robbie Turner once tweeted and said that she was in an Uber after a gig and said that the Uber had crashed and the driver had died. At first, people were concerned about Robbie and supported her, but then Uber, as well as the local police, said that there were no accidents or fatalities reported on the night in question. And eventually, Robbie confirmed that the crash never actually happened and it was just a dream. And in an interview, Robbie gave several reasons and said that she thinks that her drink might have been spiked, and she also said that she may have slipped in the shower. And Robbie posted on Instagram in 2018 confirming that the crash never happened and has not posted anything since then. And Robbie appears to have disappeared from public life ever since. I did talk about the Robbie Turner incident in a previous video, so make sure you check that out and I'll put a link in the description. Anyway, Naomi said that she would really like to see Robbie again because she and Robbie both filmed their season 8 promos together, and Naomi said that Robbie was, quote, the funniest queen I had ever met in my entire life. And Naomi said that she's sad that Robbie has gone through what she went through and hopes that Robbie will, quote, resurface one day. And Naomi said that she could make a comeback as long as it was done the right way. And Naomi made the point that a lot of other drag queens have done a lot worse things and they haven't been cancelled because of it. Naysha then explained the story and said that, quote, there was this one queen called Robbie Turner and one day she woke up and decided I'm going to lie. Naysha then went on to explain and said that she didn't understand how Robbie thought that she would get away with it because Uber did an investigation into it and that's how they found out that Robbie was lying. And Vanessa asked why Robbie had made up that story and Naysha said, quote, she decided that she wanted to lie that day. And Naysha then said, quote, and now she works for Uber. And Naysha said that she was kidding and everyone in the audience started laughing. But then it looked like the other host, Caramel, said that Robbie really does work for Uber, and Naysha said, quote, she really does work for Uber, and laughed. But it's not clear whether they were just joking or not, but they did say it several times. And Naysha said that you shouldn't lie because it can negatively affect people, but she said that she thinks that Robbie has learned from her mistakes. Naysha asked Dida the same question about who on season 4 was a, quote, pick-me queen, who always thought that they were going to win, and Dida said, quote, Fifi wasn't obvious, but she's a B, F her. Dida then said, quote, I'm about to choose violence in this moment. F Fifi because the fact that she went on Hey Queen, she disrespected me and made up a lot of lies. And I've been quiet about it for so many years and she knows what she did. F her and I hope you're having a good life. And everyone in the audience gasped and laughed. Just to explain, I believe Dida is referring to this interview with Jeremy/Fifi from Hey Queen in July 2016. In the video, Jeremy was asked about Dida, and Jeremy said that he hadn't seen Dida in a long time and said, quote, not because we're not friends, but we just haven't seen each other. Jeremy then said that Dida was in New York for a while and then, quote, magically disappeared, and then said that New York is a hard city and said, quote, maybe that has something to do with it, and Jeremy made a face when he said that. And I think because of that, the host of Hey Queen, Johnny, laughed and said, quote, it seems like there's something you're not saying. And Jeremy explained that New York is a hard city to make it in and it's very competitive and expensive. Jeremy then went on to explain that Dida used to live with him, and Jeremy said that Dida had a problem with her ex-roommate, and Jeremy went over to help Dida move out, and apparently Dida's ex-roommate was throwing her clothes out of a window. And Jeremy said, quote, I will tell you this, and she might get upset about this, she is probably one of the messiest people I've ever lived with in my entire life. Jeremy then went on to explain that Dida loves Popeye's chicken and said that when he came home, there were always boxes of Popeye's chicken everywhere. And then Jeremy asked where did Dida get all the money for this chicken, and then said, quote, she eats a lot. And it appears as though this is what upset Dida. And back to Roscoe's, Naisha asked Dida what happened with Jeremy, and Dida said, quote, I'm a very loyal friend, I don't tell people's personal business. But then Dida said that when Jeremy went on Hey Queen, quote, she made up lots of lies, talking about Popeye's chicken boxes and all types of disrespectful stuff that she knows will gaslight fans to disrespect me and come for me. And Dida finished by saying that she did not appreciate Jeremy saying that, and Dida said that when she went on Hey Queen, she was asked about Jeremy, but didn't say anything bad about Jeremy, and Dida then said, quote, F her, that's all it is. And it appears as though Jeremy must have heard about what Dida had said at Roscoe's, because after the Roscoe's episode aired, Jeremy tweeted saying, Dida Ritz, keep my name out your mouth. I picked your bleep off a Chicago sidewalk, gave you a roof when no one would. You decided to wreck my living space. I don't think you want me to bring up why you aren't allowed to work at Industry Bar in New York City, or would you? And Jeremy then followed this up with another tweet and said, I'd tag you, but you probably have me blocked because that's what happens when I bring up truths, but I'm sure the drag race scene will relay the message. And Dida tweeted, seemingly in reply to Jeremy's tweet, but it's unclear. But Dida said, I heard the trolls are big mad because of what I said at the Roscoe's viewing party. I mean, it's on footage the racist microaggressions you were throwing at me were obvious. So if you want to be mad at yourself, and we could also talk about gay US of A and why you're banned. And Dida then seemingly responded to what Jeremy had said about Dida being banned from a bar in New York, and Dida said, and I've always had nothing but a great time at any bar in New York City, that's why I still am doing drag. Naisha then asked Malaysia whether Lucy was really that delusional in person or if it was just the editing. And Malaysia said that she didn't really remember because she didn't interact with Lucy that much during the competition until they worked together in a group. But Malaysia said that Lucy, quote, gave them the material and they used what they get, implying as though Lucy was giving the producers the type of delusional behaviour that they could use in the edit. Host Batty Davis then brought up the heated moment in Untucked from a few episodes ago between Malaysia and Marsha. And Malaysia said that after she had had that moment with Marsha, it was quiet for a very long time and Marsha was, quote, tearing up on the sofa, but they edited that out. And apparently Mistress Isabel Brooks also reiterated what Malaysia had said to Marsha, but that was also cut out. They moved on to this week's challenge, which was the improv challenge where the queens split into 3 groups and had to interview 3 different celebrities. And the first group was Lux, Mistress and Selena, and Naisha asked the guests who they thought excelled in this group, and Kennedy said, quote, the one who don't got no drag did really good. And the audience laughed and the hosts asked Kennedy who she was referring to, and it appears that Kennedy was referring to Lux Noir London. And Kennedy added, quote, I think she has a beautiful personality and she knows how to do the competition, she just don't have no clothes. And Kennedy then went on to say that some of the queens on the season just aren't very memorable, but she didn't give any more specifics. They then moved on to the runway for that week, which was a night of 1,000 Beyoncés. And when referring to Marsha's runway, Kennedy said, quote, Marsha looks like a bag of carpets. And everyone gasped and laughed in the audience, and Kennedy explained and said, quote, like they put them in a trash bag and you pull them out and say, oh look B, I got some carpets, you want to buy one? And then Kennedy added, quote, oh you know I didn't mean it girl, and laughed, so I think this was just a joke and wasn't meant too seriously. They then moved on to the mini challenge for this week, which was a voguing dance challenge. And host Batty Davis said, quote, "I think it's safe to say we waited long enough because some of the girls in the beginning, that would have been a little more of an issue for Queen Aja to read the girls." And Marsha said that for her personally, she wasn't trying to do actual voguing and claims no history in voguing and didn't want to disrespect anybody. And just to explain the backstory behind this, there has been a lot of contention about voguing, especially on Drag Race, and how it is often done wrong and this could be seen as disrespectful. For those of you who don't know, voguing is a highly stylized modern house dance originating in the late 1980s that evolved out of the Harlem ballroom scene of the 1960s. And it gained mainstream exposure after the 1990 documentary Paris is Burning, and also the Madonna music video for the song Vogue, also in 1990. And the Harlem ballroom scene originated as an African American and Latino LGBT+ subculture from the 1960s through to the 1980s. And there has been a lot of discussion online as to whether it's insulting or a form of cultural appropriation for people to dance in the style of voguing without being part of that subculture or having studied voguing. And the reason Batty mentioned Aja is because Aja has been very vocal about this topic so far. For example, in episode 1 of season 15, Anitra's talent show went viral and the style of dance she was doing is very similar to voguing. And Aja was live tweeting during the episode, and after Anitra's performance, Aja tweeted saying, "Stop nogging on Drag Race." And nogging refers to when someone is imitating the style of voguing but doesn't have any actual knowledge of it and is doing it wrong. Anyway, after Aja tweeted that about Anitra, Aja received a lot of criticism from people saying that she was trying to, quote, gatekeep the art of voguing. And Aja later tweeted saying, "I just hate mocking Vogue." And Aja seemingly amended her stance on this slightly and later said, "I like her a lot, I just hate it when people not in ballroom get awarded for doing things ballroom related." And Aja said that she had re-watched Anitra's performance and said that she actually liked it and said that Anitra landed the dip correctly, but she said that the duck walking was, quote, a little sloppy. And Aja received a lot of criticism online about this, and some people even said that Aja has not been in the ballroom scene for very long herself, so she shouldn't be critiquing others. However, Aja denied this and said that she has been doing ballroom for a long time. But Aja later said that Anitra's performance was entertaining and she hopes that Anitra takes some voguing classes, and Aja's intention was never to spread hate or bullying towards anybody. And it appears that Anitra must have heard about what Aja had been saying about her performance, and then Anitra apparently blocked Aja. Aja then said in a since deleted tweet that Anitra unfollowing me on Instagram and removing me as a follower after I gave her her flowers but made a simple critique on behalf of many others in ballroom who feel the same way instead of just responding to the DM I sent and creating a dialogue is comical to me. And people responded to Aja saying that Anitra did the right thing by removing herself from Aja's, quote, pettiness and gatekeeping. And Aja later said that her community was being made a mockery of, which is why she was upset about it. And Aja also compared the situation to if someone was doing a Bollywood dance incorrectly and then avoided being asked about it. And this issue of voguing and gatekeeping has been a big topic recently. For example, I mentioned this in a previous video, but prominent ballroom dancer and performer Laomi once tweeted about Todrick Hall saying that he needed to stop nogging. And Laomi also said the same thing about Drag Race contestants too. And Laomi even said that Drag Race would never book her to be a judge, and she suggested it's because she's considered, quote, problematic for calling out appropriation. And this topic was also called out by other people, such as Gravity Balmain, who competed on season 1 of the show Legendary, which is a voguing reality competition. And when the preview for this week's Drag Race mini challenge came out, Gravity posted on Instagram saying, "Call me a hater all you want, but the voguing mini challenge in tomorrow's Drag Race episode is probably the most egregious and blatant example of the show's unrelenting efforts to bastardize and make a mockery of Vogue and ballroom, from terminology to technique to framing." And Gravity continued and said that it was very disheartening and claimed that Drag Race was spreading misinformation about voguing. But Gravity made it clear that these comments aren't targeted at the queens, but towards, quote, the powers that be. And so this has become a hotly debated topic, especially now within the Drag Race community, and this is seemingly why Anitra blocked Aja. And people have also started making jokes and tagging Aja whenever Drag Race mentions voguing. And Aja seemingly restarted this issue when she tweeted during the Lollapalooza lip sync, saying that during the Anitra versus Sasha lip sync, the dip was, quote, crusty, and it was assumed that Aja was referring to Anitra. But then, after this week's episode, it appeared that Aja complimented Anitra and said that she was the only one who landed a dip. But Aja did finish by saying that the challenge was, quote, in poor taste. Caramel then asked whose runway this week had room for improvement, and Lux said, quote, I didn't love Lucy's if we're going to be honest. And she also said that she loved Anitra's look, but wished that the lasers were more prominent because you couldn't really see them under the runway lights. They then moved on to the part of the episode where RuPaul asked the queens who should go home tonight and why, and Naysha said that Lux had gone down the line and said something positive about each person, but then read Lucy. And Lux explained that she wanted to explain her reasoning for her choice, which is why she said something positive about everyone, and she said that she did say something positive about Lucy, but, quote, I don't know if amnesia will strike and will forget I said that. But Lux said that although it didn't air, she did also read Selena slightly and said that Selena, quote, is not as polished, but she has a clear point of view. And Lux said that she said what she said and she meant it. And Lux also said that because she gave everyone compliments, she didn't want to then just go to Lucy and say, quote, and Lucy sucks. And Lux said that Lucy is amazing at what she does and she's really good in Snatch Game and has done well in the competition, but her drag is a little, quote, generic. And Lux finished by saying, quote, she's got charisma, nerve and talent, she's for me just kind of missing the uniqueness. And host Batty Davis then said, quote, that's not the only thing you stole the book from the Roscoe. And Mistress joked and said that she didn't steal the book, she gave it to Selena and Selena stole it. And then Selena denied this and said, quote, Mistress said, can you hold this for me? Just to explain, you may remember that in last week's Roscoe episode, there was a part where they held up RuPaul's book, Guru. And after the episode aired, Mistress tweeted saying that she stole the book because she thought it was a prop. But it turned out that it was one of the producer's personal copies of the book, and they were going crazy looking for it. And Mistress eventually gave it back to them because she didn't want them to go through her stuff and find all of the other things that Mistress has stolen from set. And then apparently on the main stage, Mistress apologised to Ru and admitted that she had stolen the book, and RuPaul then said, quote, well, cue the snipers. And this is what Mistress and Selena were referring to at Roscoe's. Mistress also said that she stole the paddle with her face on it that they used in the mini challenge this week, and apparently the producers were really mad at her for taking it because it had her entrance look on it. And presumably they didn't want her entrance look to get leaked. Anitra also said that she tried to steal a lot of stuff from set, and Mistress said that she and Anitra cut, quote, a big ass piece of the workroom wall out on the first day. They then moved on to the Q&A, and Naysha said she wants to start off, and she asked Selena if she would like to talk about the viral video of Selena calling out Ross Matthews. I did do a video on this, so make sure you check that out for the full story. I'll put a link in the description. But just in case you missed it, Selena was at a viewing party for the episode where she was eliminated, and on stage she called out Ross Matthews and said that he can, quote, eat my ass, among other things. And this video went viral online, and Naysha gave Selena the opportunity to clear the air about it. Selena said that, quote, it wasn't my proudest moment, and Selena said she won't apologise for the way that she felt because her feelings are valid, but the way she expressed her feelings was, quote, not the cutest thing. Selena went on to say that although she actually got a good edit on the show, she didn't realise that at the time because she was in the bottom so much and she was in her feelings. And Selena brought up her episode of What You Packin' with Michelle, and Selena said that she felt that she was, quote, Michelle's punching bag all season, and Selena said that Michelle and Ross made her feel, quote, horrible. And Selena said that she confronted Michelle about this during What You Packin'. And in case you haven't seen it, Watch Your Packin' is a YouTube show where Michelle interviews the Queen who was eliminated that week, and they talk about their run on the show and also their outfits. In Selena's episode, Selena started off by saying that she was, quote, really nervous because Michelle had been keeping her up at night because of the critiques that Michelle had said to Selena. Michelle then asked Selena if she felt that her critiques were harsh, and Selena said that because she only got critiques when she was in the bottom, she never felt like she was being lifted up. And Michelle explains that her intention was never to hurt the queens, but to help them improve, and she said that she actually really enjoyed Selena on the show. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and Selena said that it felt good to clear the air with Michelle during Watch Your Packin', but she never had that moment with Ross, which is probably what led to her saying those things at the viewing party. And Selena said that she had a phone call with Ross a few days after the viewing party, and they cleared the air, and Selena apologised for what she said on stage. Selena also said that she didn't realise how powerful her voice and her platform is because she never felt like she had had a platform up until then, and this experience has taught her how powerful her platform is. And Selena finished by saying that she and Ross are all good now, and Selena said that with all of the drag bans and the anti-LGBT rhetoric going on, she didn't need to be, quote, adding fuel to that fire, and we should be spreading love. And Selena apologised for her actions, and everyone in the audience clapped and cheered. Caramel then asked Keita what the perception of Courtney Act is in Australia, and Keita said that Courtney is a household name in Australia. And Naisha asked why they didn't ask Courtney to host Drag Race Down Under instead of RuPaul, and Keita joked and said, quote, because they dangled the coins in front of RuPaul. They then got to the part of the episode where Sasha won the episode, and the lip sync between Mistress and Anitra resulted in a double save. And Naisha got the audience to clap for the season 15 queens for giving us a great season. Naisha then said that they were filming the reunion on the same day that Roscoe's viewing party was happening, which was on the Friday, and that the finale was being filmed the next day on Saturday. And then, on the Saturday after the finale was taped, a rumour started circulating online that apparently one of the backup dancers had broken their leg on stage during Anitra's number at the finale. And some people were even saying that Anitra had apparently kicked the dancer accidentally during the number, and that's why they had broken their leg. However, Naisha Lopez tweeted on Sunday and said that this rumour was not true. Naisha said, one of the dancers hurt himself. A dancer did not break his leg at the RuPaul's Drag Race finale. He was in all the girls' numbers and they had to modify everyone's final number, not just Anitra's. Kudos to the dancers for being so professional. Also, the internet is wild, shaking my head. And a user replied to Naisha's tweet and asked if it was a lie that Anitra kicked the dancer, and Naisha said that it was a lie. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and while they were discussing the reunion and the finale, there was some confusion as to which day the reunion and the finale were being taped. And someone in the audience implied as though the reunion was being filmed after the finale, but the host said that the reunion was taping on Friday and the finale was taped on Saturday. However, I thought this was an interesting point because some of you may not know this, but sometimes the reunion is actually filmed after the finale, which is not what you would expect. For example, I have talked about this in a video previously, but there's a rumour that they filmed the season 9 reunion after they had filmed the finale. So, Shea Coulee and Trinity the Tuck knew that they hadn't won because they had already been knocked out in the first round of lip syncs at the finale. But at the reunion, they still had to tape the moment where RuPaul asks the audience who of the finalists they are rooting for in the finale, even though 2 of the 4 of them knew that they had already not won because they'd already filmed the finale. And some people have even suggested that this is why some of the queens were quite vocal at the season 9 reunion, which caused a lot of drama. However, this is just a rumour and I couldn't find any concrete evidence to support this. And season 10 contestant The Vixen apparently confirmed in a DM message that appeared online that the season 10 reunion was filmed after the reunion as well. Batty Davis then said that the queens who had already been on the show are tearing down newer queens and it needs to stop. And Jujubee then said, quote, "Are you talking about Trinity?" And Batty said yes. Just to explain in case you hadn't seen, Trinity the Tuck and Luxe Noir London had a few feuds on Twitter throughout the season. And I did talk about this in a previous video, so I'll put the link in the description if you want all of the details. Anyway, at Roscoe's they talked more about Trinity the Tuck's feud with Luxe, and Jujubee said, quote, "Leave Luxe alone, Trinity," and Detox also said the same thing. Detox then said that the whole thing was, quote, "so silly," and then said that she was about to insert herself into the drama, but then remembered what had happened with Valentina and decided not to. For background information, if you didn't already know, back when Valentina was on season 9, Detox had made several negative comments about Valentina. For example, in one tweet, Detox insinuated that Valentina puts on an accent when she's on TV. And Detox also made a few comments on Facebook from an account under the name Matthew Sanderson, which is Detox's name out of drag. And Detox said that she had a beef with Valentina because she felt that Shea Coulee had been, quote, robbed, and also Detox said that she thought Valentina had a, quote, contrived character and said that she knew her, quote, bull bleep. And in another Facebook thread, which was about Charlie Hyde's defending people calling out Valentina for her bad attitude, Detox commented saying that multiple people had said the same thing about Valentina and said, quote, hashtag common denominator. Anyway, Detox said that because of all of that with Valentina, she decided not to get involved with the Trinity and Luxe drama on Twitter. But Detox said that one of Trinity's tweets that, quote, killed me the most was when Trinity said that she was too busy on her international tour to get involved in the drama. And Detox said, quote, well, you're not too busy to be effing quote tweeting and all of this bleep. Detox said that we have more important things to focus on and we should not be fighting within our own community, and we also shouldn't be focusing on impersonations that were, quote, mid. They then moved on to the performances by the top 4, and they first watched Anitra's performance. And they all agreed that Anitra looked good and performed well, and Pangina said that she really liked the song and it reminded her of dance hits from the 1990s. However, Pangina said that the performance was lacking a climax at the end, and Pangina said, quote, I really wanted the payoff somehow, I kind of want that unexpected element a little bit. And it appears that someone else may have also felt that Anitra's performance at the finale were a bit lacking. After the finale aired, Leomi, who is a ballroom dancer known for her voguing, tweeted saying, nothing worse than a failed 360, you're wrong for tagging me in that, is Miss Thing okay though? And it appears that Leomi was referring to the 360 dip in Anitra's lip sync against Sasha Colby. And you may remember that previously, Leomi had called out people like Todrick Hall as well as other Drag Race queens for nogging, which is when people try to do voguing but don't do it correctly because they aren't trained. And later, Leomi also quote tweeted a tweet that someone else had written where they had stitched together the part from Anitra's lip sync where she did the 360 dip, and they added in a clip from the dance reality competition show Legendary, which Leomi is a judge on, and they added in a clip where Leomi said, quote, the 360 was all the way failed. So it appears as though people were trying to imply that Anitra's 360 dip during the lip sync had failed. And one of the other people who talked about this topic previously was Season 9 and All Stars 3 contestant Aja. And it seems that someone else brought this up again to Aja and tweeted a video of Aja doing a 360 dip during a performance where she was apparently drunk. And Aja replied to this and said, people talking bleep about this, but I landed the dip, y'all just mad. And it seems like Aja may have been referring to what had happened to Anitra at the finale, but neither Aja nor Leomi have tweeted any more about it since then. They then moved on to the moment where Malaysia Babydoll Fox won Miss Congeniality, and the hosts asked the audience what they thought of that, and there wasn't much of a reaction. And Batty said, quote, wait, they didn't feel it, who do you think was supposed to get it? A few audience members then shouted out some names, such as Sugar and Spice, Mistress, Lucy, and Marsha. And Caramel joked and said, quote, but was Mistress congenial though? And this led Naisha to refer to Malaysia and said, quote, I love that the one queen that got into an argument with almost everybody is the one that got Miss Congeniality. And on the topic of the drama between the queens, this was also referred to in the last episode during the reunion, where some of the queens confronted each other about things that had happened throughout the season. And one of the comments that was brought up at the reunion was that they did a mini reading challenge, and Irene Dubois said that Selena S. Titties had a fake accent. And then Selena said, quote, "Okay, white girl." What you may not know though is that afterwards on Twitter, a Twitter user tweeted saying, "Irene, I've had enough, shut up, hashtag drag race, you want TV time so bad." And Irene responded saying, "I'm sorry, they asked me to add more comments during the breaks." And the user replied saying, "But commenting to a POC queen about an accent that's not a good look, and it made very uncomfortable." To which Irene said, "I don't disagree." And then Malaysia replied to this tweet and clarified that her and Selena discussed it off camera and all is well, enjoy the reunion, my love. And it seems that some of the other queens also made some critical comments about the reunion. For example, Amethyst, who was eliminated in episode 5, tweeted after the reunion saying that the reunion was really disappointing and that during the reunion the only thing that they found time to show about Amethyst was her hookup with Robin Fierce that happened a couple of years ago and, quote, no one cares about. Amethyst also said that they only used about 20% of what she said and they didn't show anything about her music or her journey in drag. And Amethyst said that she wasn't just sitting there not saying anything, they just didn't address her during the reunion. A Twitter user then replied to Amethyst and said that Amethyst could have found opportunities to talk and said that Irene managed to find moments for herself. And Amethyst replied saying that she and Robin did say some nice things about the Connecticut drag scene, but it just wasn't shown. Another Twitter user also replied to Amethyst's original tweet and said that Amethyst was making herself a, quote, martyr, and said that it's the worst way to get asked back on the show or build a stronger fan base. And Amethyst just responded saying, "I just said that I was disappointed, ... But it looks like Amethyst deleted her original tweet and hasn't said anything more about it since then. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to all of my Patreon members. Your support is truly incredible and it really makes a huge difference to my channel, so thank you so much. If you'd like early access to my videos before they go on YouTube, as well as shoutouts in my videos, priority when submitting interview questions, and also access to my archived videos, you can join my Patreon for just a few dollars a month to unlock these incredible benefits. I'll put a link in the description. So, did you agree with the winner of season 15? And what was your favourite part from the Roscoe's recaps throughout season 15? Let me know in the comments. Please make sure you like, comment and share this video as it really helps support my channel. And of course, please make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date about new uploads. Thanks for watching and I hope you'll join me again in future videos. Thank you, bye!